Hi, I'm Shruti Taneja, the founder of Navala. Thank you, Delhi Foodworks, for having me. I'm super excited for our conversation today. But before we begin, I'd like to tell you that I'm an amateur cook and I'm still learning. So there is a possibility that I might not have all the answers, but I'll definitely share everything that I've learned so far. So I only started cooking recently, and I wish that I had started early and learned about like nuances of flavor pairing, what is seasonal, why certain ingredients are used in certain weathers, and there's so much wisdom that our mothers and grandmothers carried, and that is the reason why I created Navala. I regret not having spent that time in the kitchen with my mom and grandmom. A few years ago, when I lost my mom, I realized I hadn't learned any of my favorite recipes or even written them down, and now they're lost in time. We take these things for granted sometimes, and I don't want that to happen to everyone. So, with a mission to inspire everyone to record their family recipes, I created this heirloom recipe journal in which people can write down their family recipes and the stories associated with those recipes, whose kitchen it comes from. These recipes are an important part of our family legacy, and they need to be documented and carried forward. So that's Navala for you. So today we'll be talking about cooking in leaves. So leaves are probably one of the earliest culinary tools um, that was made, right? So this topic is so vast and can be approached from so many angles. It can be approached via geography or regional cuisines or types and benefits. There's so much, and we'll only be scratching the surface today. And there's so many benefits of cooking and eating in leaves. For example, you know the waxy substance that's present on the surface of the leaves. It's called polyphenol. So, and that's a natural oxidant. It melts when hot food is mixed with it. So similarly, there's like the leaves of the cinnamon plant gives a delicious aroma. So every leaf comes with a different property and has a different use. And and the variety of leaves that are used in different parts of India, and each has their own usage. And so let's start today and we'll begin. So before we begin, let's just go back to the history of cooking. Okay, so if you look at the history of cooking, we were all hunters and gatherers before the discovery of fire, and we started cooking. So it's believed that the primitive human began cooking only 250,000 years ago. And they did that by tossing a piece of meat in fire. And the first method of cooking was roasting, where the fish or the bird was essentially placed on the end of the stick and held over open fire. So that was roasting. And it was the sole technique for the longest time until someone started to steam food wrapped in leaves over hot embers. So it's one of the earliest examples of culinary improvisation. It's so simple yet brilliant, right? If you think about it, leaves are a wonderful insulator for cooking food. It protects the food from being exposed to direct heat and prevents dirt from seeping in. The leaves also trap some steam and seal in the flavors, allowing the food to cook slowly in the mellow heat. The results are absolutely fantastic. And for our ancestors, the choice of leaf was actually contingent on the availability. But over time, through trial and error, cooks learned to identify leaves that were not merely used only for protective casing, but also added flavors and sometimes medicinal property to the foods. So we'll start with the most popular leaf that's used in cooking, which is the banana leaf. So India is a tropical country, right? And there are lots of banana trees, which makes them easily available, especially in the coastal regions. And they're quite versatile and are used in a variety of cuisines across the country. So in South India, they are used to steam idli. So the idli batter is essentially placed in banana leaves like this, the little like katoris which are made out of banana leaves. You pour the batter in it, and the idlis are steamed. Then Gujarati cuisine, you have something called the panki. So in the panki is basically something like this. So you have like a banana leaf in between. You put like a bit of a spiced besan batter, and you put the banana leaf on top, and then you roast it on the tawa, and that just imparts like a really nice aroma to the batter. It's one of my favorite foods actually. And then you have the Parsi Matrani, Patrani Machi. So that's also used. That also uses like the fish wrapped in banana leaves, which is then steamed. So that's banana leaf. It's one of the most popular leaves available. But apart from banana leaves, there are lots of other varieties of leaves that are used in different regions. So there's an ancient book called the Namatnama, which was compiled by the Sultan of Malwa and his son in the 15th century, and it archives a recipe of this kofta, the meatballs, which were essentially wrapped in lime leaves and added to a broth. Other variations of that dish use the orange leaves or the beetle leaves, and there's also the famous Rajasthan's famous pig cooking, which is popular with the royal hunting parties. So the royal family of Mewar boasts this really interesting recipe in which they basically take the chicken, wrap it up in khakra leaves, and then put it in the pit for cooking. So that's also one of their famous recipes. So, actually, one interesting fact about the beetle leaf, which my friend just told me right before this event, is basically beetle leaves. It's a primary flavor enhancer when they're making ghee. So you add one beetle leaf while making ghee, and it just instantly transforms the flavor of the ghee. And in turn, that when that ghee is used to make the prasad, it just tastes completely different. So going back to different kinds of leaves. Okay, so in some parts of Karnataka, the idli batters is cooked not just in banana leaves like I showed you. It's also used in like the it's also cooked in like molds made of like screw pine leaves. The screw pine leaves essentially adds like a subtle grassy aroma. Um, and has these floral notes that seeps into the moist idli. So idlis are also steamed in jackfruit leaves, which is very high in antioxidants. And continuing with jackfruit leaves, jackfruit in Bengal, these jackfruit leaves are used to make dumplings with the pulp of palmyra palm, which is essentially steamed in cones made out of these leaves. And that's not all across the south. A lot of dumplings, which are both sweet and savory, are steamed in molds made with sugar palm leaves and leaves of the tulip tree. So that's about the jackfruit leaves. Then during monsoons, you have the turmeric leaves which grow in abundance, right? So Konkani homes make this dish called the patholi, which is basically sweet rice dumplings stuffed with coconut and jaggery and steamed in these turmeric leaves. And these turmeric leaves are used across the country. In Orissa, it's used to make the iconic Induri pitha, which is essentially rice and urad dal batter layered with cardamom scented sweet coconut, and that's again steamed in turmeric leaves and steamed in clay pots. In Assam, these leaves are used to cook fish in. So they basically marinate the fish with a little bit of ginger, green chilies, and a splash of mustard oil, wrap the turmeric leaves, and then roast it. So, I just touched upon all the basic varieties of leaves that we use till date, which is your banana leaf, your jackfruit leaf, and the turmeric leaf. But there's so much abundance of knowledge that is not documented, right? And I've done my research, and there's only so much Google can offer. So if anyone has any knowledge or any recipes or any stories about leaves that they've cooked in or they use as part of their family recipes or everyday cooking or like festive cooking, you can please share it with us. We'd be happy to I'd be happy to feature you on my page as well. So if anyone has any questions about about leaves, I'd be happy to take them now. Yes, Sneha, jackfruit leaves are used in making pita. Um, okay, so talking about Nivala, so Nivala, like I told you, it started from a personal loss, and that's why I created this journal so that we all document our culinary legacy, and 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 all of us like come from such rich, diverse cultural backgrounds that and we all have these family recipes that need to be preserved, right? Whether it's cooking with leaves, whether it's using certain spices, there's so much that can be explored and can be documented for the future generation. So Nivala is essentially like a journal which basically has like different in which you can write down your family recipes and pass it down to your children. They're equally important as the saris, the jewelry that you'd pass down to your children. And another thing that we recently started was because with this pandemic, yeah, we've been cooking a lot at home. We've been cooking and we've been learning how to cook from our mothers and grandmothers. So, and it'll be so nice to share these recipes with your loved ones. So you can actually write down those recipes in a postcard and send it to your friend. And we have this service called the Project Rasoi Mail, in which if you send us the recipe and you tell us who you want to send it to, we'll write it down on a recipe card and mail it to whoever you want, whoever you want it to be mailed to, using the traditional snail mail, using stamps. So like I said, this Gujarati panki is one of my favorite recipes, and this recipe was actually given to me by one of my friends from Bombay, and her mom, she comes from a Gujarati family, and she actually introduced me to it. It's a very simple recipe. I'd be happy to post it later in the comments if anyone wants it. And if anyone wants a recipe of the Parsi Patrani Machi, I'd be happy to share that as well. It's again from like an authentic Parsi family that was given to me by one of our family friends. Um, okay, so this was it. So if anyone wants to share any of their family recipes, or if anyone has any knowledge or any stories about cooking with leaves, do share it with us, and we'd be happy to feature it on our page. Yes. So thank you, Delhi Food Works, for having me.